Hi, everyone, and welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust, episode 31. My name is Joel Goldberg, starting a little bit early today, which I think is fine if anyone's watching live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter or Periscope, whatever you want to call it these days. We're here, and there's also the option to watch it later and all the links, and we'll have that out on each of those platforms, plus also on LinkedIn. So, really enjoying doing this and having different elements, different aspects every single day. And one of the key pieces to my business in terms of baseball and the speaking podcasting world is networking. And networking, some people love it, some people don't. It's important, I believe, for most of us in what we do. And that's across the board in all types of different professions. And that's changed a bit nowadays in this world that we're living in, and hopefully we won't be living in it too much longer, but it's probably changed long term too in the options that we have and how we're able to visit with people. So one guy that I know that networks nonstop every day, all day, Monday through Friday, maybe sometimes occasionally on a weekend too, but it's over and over and over again, is my friend Scott Havens from Hub International. I believe he works I'm talking to you now. I believe you work in the insurance industry, but really to me, what you do is you work in the people industry, which is, I think, all of us, but I know that you are a connector, you are a networker. So first and foremost, how are you doing?
Doing wonderful. How are you doing on Cinco de Cinco de Mayo, your birthday?
Yeah, it's birthday. Another, I think somebody asked me if I got my AARP card today, and I'm not quite there yet.
I think
said it was,
Scott Rowe asked you if it was your 60 or 69th birthday.
Yeah, he asked me that. Another friend asked AARP card, on and on and on. The one thing about having a birthday like Cinco de Mayo, it's a little bit of pressure in a sense, because I feel like everybody if they just associate Cinco de Mayo with me, and I'm not the only one out there. I know a ton of people that have the same birthday. Everybody remembers that, but then there's that pressure of having to remember everybody else's. And if you're not paying attention to Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those things, that could be a little bit difficult.
Facebook is the lifesaver. I mean, the business world just changed a ton because you no longer have to remember people's birthdays because we're reminded. But I mean, getting business back in the day was remembering your clients and friends' birthdays.
Mm-hmm. Right. And there's still some great people. I got a birthday message last night from Dr. Michelle Robin, who's been on the show, and certainly you, Michelle. But Michelle is like, that's her thing, to always reach out and leave a voicemail on birthdays. You can't go wrong with, by the way, it's hard to work or do a show because every time I look down on my phone, there's like 15 more messages, which is awesome. And I'll get to Facebook later. But that is the beauty. And you know what? I feel like right now there is just this greater need for people to stay connected. And so I do feel like, even I've heard from some people today that I haven't heard from for 5 years, because I think it's like, hey, I'm home. Why not do it? I got a moment to do it. Why not? Which is kind of cool. I mean, I do think there's a different level of connectivity right now.
Absolutely. I won't ask you to name drop, but I mean, I'm sure it's got to make you feel really good when people that are, really busy and across the country reach out to you. And I think we were talking right before this. I've gotten the advice never to work on your birthday because of having to respond and catch up with people. So I know you're really busy today with everything going on with the Tech Counselator Day and interviews. So you are going to be a busy man. You got to make sure you give yourself time to eat today.
Yes, we'll get there. I don't look like I need to eat anything, so we could hold off on that. But there'll be the good Cinco de Mayo birthday celebration. I never did the Mexican dinner or anything like that on my birthday, because I always felt like, why do I want to go to a Mexican restaurant and wait for 2 hours on my birthday? So we'd always go somewhere else. The reality of it is most years I'm either at the stadium or on the road. So that is one of the benefits right now to being home. All right, I want to ask you a couple things, and I know you've got some stuff up your sleeve too, but how has the world of networking changed for you? Because so much of what you do and your LinkedIn game is extremely strong. I put on my post that I want to see who gets more views, you or Erin Folk, when she was on. Start a little competition there. I'm leveraging the two of you guys against each other, by the way. And
very smart.
And everybody should check out Scott and Erin's LinkedIn live show weekly too. but which is on Wednesdays at 3.
So we're actually interviewing Mayor Quentin Lucas today.
Yep. Today. Okay. So later today at 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Great get there. And Mayor Q is awesome, as you guys know. But how has your world changed? Because most mornings you are bringing 40, 60, 80, 100 people together every single day, multiple times a day. Obviously, we can't do that right now. So how's your world changed?
So it's a confusing answer, and there's pros and cons. The Business Journal reached out to me right when this happened to talk about, and honestly, I thought we could just get through this, and eventually things would be up and running in June. Well, that's not necessarily the case because we're not going to be getting together in large groups. So I run 11 different peer groups. 3 of them are larger. So the operating executive peer groups or general counsels or CFOs, those are going wonderful. People are connecting, and we're doing Zoom, and we're being really productive, and everyone's there. Well, for the larger groups, I was wrong. And honestly, Joel, I got a lot of that information on June based upon Major League Baseball and your start date. So I was like, if MLB is going to go in June, then we'll all go in June. And with the flu season coming back in the wintertime, it presents a really big issue. So I'm going to be getting some folks together in a parking lot and making sure we're doing social distancing for a group I run with Ben Johnson, who's also his birthday today, Cinco de Mayo,
Nice.
in a parking lot to do social distancing. But that only works maybe now and in the fall, because summer and winter, you're not going to do that. So I don't know how it's going to work. And then for you with speaking to large groups, the great thing is you can do it all virtually. So that's a huge advantage as a keynote.
Yeah, and I think a couple things. One, I love the idea of the parking lot. If done right, you can get, your kids aren't quite old enough, but you can get the sidewalk chalk or tape some spots out, and you could even do, I'm sure you've thought about this, but you could even do breakout rooms where you have groups of 5 or 8 or even 10 spread out in the areas. And then this is what I found we've been doing, as with our mutual friend Casey Wright, the founder of Chief of Staff. By the way, speaking of name dropping companies, I realized at the top I did mention Enterprise Bank, the title sponsor of the show, #No Stopping You, but I jumped right in. I was running late. I'd messed something up with my settings. It happens every now and then that I forgot to mention my friends at Casey Cattle Company. So I'll do this while Scott's sitting there, because Scott, like me, looks like he could eat a good steak, right? Yes.
Yeah, we're chubby, but maybe a little bloated from salt and alcohol at times.
Oh man. Well, lately I think everybody is in a similar boat. Maybe not everybody. Casey Cattle Company is up in Weston, Missouri, locally owned and operated, veteran owned and operated by my friend Patrick Montgomery, and they deliver to all 50 states, and they make the drive over here to Kansas City on Fridays to deliver. So Wagyu beef steaks, ground beef, bratwursts, by the way, Scott, that are killer, like bacon, cheese bratwursts. Ridiculous. Maybe, as Pat told me, not the healthiest thing in the world, but right now I'm going for comfort.
With it being local and organic, I think that it could. I mean, it's probably healthier than what you'd get processed. And the other great thing is their business has to be booming right now, because you can figure out where it's from, and I see that as being a huge advantage for their network, especially selling to people that are a little bit more higher income, that want to pay a little bit more for their food. And I think that model is going to go really well.
They're doing well. It's amazing. And as I mentioned, they're veterans too. So I wanted to give them a shout out. But
and then one quick plug to Jeff Carson for being a genius. So I'm a huge fan of Mark Pasola and Jason Carter Solomon and Justin Mahoney, but that is so smart that he sponsored your podcast, because I mean, they have to be one of the most well-known brands just through everything that their people are doing and that you're helping them do. So shout out to Jeff, because that is a smart move.
Well, you know what? It was a nice partnership with Jeff and Enterprise, and an opportunity for both parties, myself and them, to get in front of people in a different way. And that's really what this is all about. It gets back to what you're saying. And, so I'm thinking about that networking in the parking lots. And what I have found with some of these driveway parties is that if they get too big and the circle starts to move further away, which that's what I'm practicing. I'm seeing it's been interesting too generationally. Like the younger millennials I'm seeing aren't as I could use the word paranoid like me. I mean, I'm not off the charts paranoid, but there's a little more closeness with some of the younger millennials. I think my generation is spread apart. The older, the boomers are kind of either they're all in, like I'm not getting near it, or it's more of like a screw it, I don't care. So it's been really interesting to sort of see that. And I won't get on a soapbox about what people should be doing.
Please ask Grant Gooding that question, and he will give you a great answer. He does a phenomenal job of societal issues and why that is.
Yeah, well, he does a phenomenal job with a lot, and I always like getting into Grant's head. He's been a guest on this podcast in one of the first 30. But what I've seen is when you have the bigger groups, it can be a little bit hard when the circle gets big enough that you can't hear everybody or there's too much conversations going on. That's when you need to go into those little breakout groups. I think there's no reason why you can't still do these type of things and be safe.
We're definitely doing it. I mean, I'm just at a point where I reached a breaking point last week where when the rules and guidelines came out that no more than 10 people going into the summer, I was just like, well, one, I'm happy that we're doing everything responsibly, and I think that's important. But secondly, it's like, okay, it's time to adapt. It's no longer can you wait this out. It needs to be done now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It just to me, one of the biggest messages that I've been trying to give people is it's a couple things. One, you've got to adapt, like you just said, and you can't wait for everything to be perfect. So many of us are perfectionists, and that's good. But if you're going to wait to make everything to be exactly what you want, you're gonna be passed by others. So a guy like you has done so much work to establish your reputation, and your role as a connector and a networker and adding value to people. And if you're going to wait to get back to do things the way you were before, others will pass you. So I think first and foremost, that's really important. But then along with that, as you try new things, and I'm seeing this a lot, you see it on LinkedIn. This will be a little bit of an event for me, and I'm generally a very positive person, is that as people are navigating their way and they're trying different things, which I encourage, you could sense some desperation at times, a little bit of panic, and people are getting away from who they are. You still have to stay true to who you are. You still have to be authentic. You still have to, what I speak about in my virtual presentation, you still have to get back to the fundamentals. In baseball terms, that's making sure you field the grounder right or having the right techniques. You still have to get back to what got you here. You didn't get to where you're at with all that great attention, which I know you try to ignore, but all that attention in the business journal and all those things, they even put your mug up there, which was amazing. But you didn't get there overnight. So yes, maybe the way to go about it is different now and you've got to adjust, but I think you still have to be true to who you are. It's amazing to me how many people here's the vent, will reach out on LinkedIn, not even know, and I'll try to accept almost every connection, unless it looks like it's someone that doesn't make any sense at all. But oftentimes an immediate message will come, whether it's automated or not. Hey, let's grab coffee. Wait a minute. I don't even know you, and not even let's grab coffee. Here, choose a date below to grab coffee. And my response is, wait a minute. We haven't even attempted at a relationship. It's kind of a non-starter for me.
Well, that's what you and I talk about mostly is, the people that want to just a quick fix. And again, I think 95% of people are not seeking genuine two-way street relationships. And that's honestly what I spend most of my time talking to my friends about, like yourself, that are really well known is how do you sniff that out? And one quick funny sports story to get there is Peter Maluk, the CEO of Creative Planning, that's really well known here in town, tells a story of his buddy getting on a plane. And as he gets on the plane, he looks next to him and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're Ken Griffey Jr." And the guy looks at him and goes, "No, I'm not Ken Griffey Jr." And the guy's like, "Well, you look exactly like Ken Griffey Jr." And he goes, "Well, I appreciate that." And he puts on his headphones. So they get off the plane and they go back to baggage check. And a kid comes up to the man that was sitting next to Peter Maluk's friend and says, "Hey, Mr. Ken Griffey Jr., can you sign my baseball?" And he goes, "Yeah, of course, kid. Here you go." And he signs the baseball. And the guy goes, "Hey, I thought you said you weren't Ken Griffey Jr." And Ken Griffey goes to the guy, goes, "Yeah, but you looked like a talker," and walked away. And so my reference is for LinkedIn is if they look like they're a salesperson from their profile after getting enough experience, I would not accept them outside of Kansas City and having 50 to 100 mutual connections. And you know enough people that you have that many mutual connections. Now, someone that's a better expert than I am is Erin Folk. And Erin is by far, she has to be the best at LinkedIn in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And she accepts everyone because it grows in a variety. There's a lot of algorithms behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very interesting. So two different thoughts. I don't know which one's right.
Well, and I'm not so far out where it's like, see, I'm like Aaron. I will accept just about everyone. The non-starter part becomes, when do I ignore messages? Like I don't feel like just because you have a connection, or the same thing on Twitter, that suddenly gives automatic right to act like you have this relationship. You know, I think it's okay. And look, there are plenty of people that I follow on LinkedIn that I don't know, and I think it's totally okay for me to reach out to them. But I wouldn't do it like, hey, let's grab a coffee. Whether I think they know me or not from TV, it would be, hey, I really appreciate your work, or I really enjoy what you're doing. I've learned from it, whatever it is. You know, you provide a value. Would you at any point have time to get on a call or a Zoom? I'd love to hear more about, and at least potentially provide some value or a reason for this call. Hey, I'd love to pick your brain about blah blah blah, versus, hey, thanks for connecting, let's get on a coffee. Well, wait a minute, we just connected. That doesn't mean so. And I don't, you know, Erin's not taking meetings with every single person too. Where she's diligent, and you are as well, is responding to every person. And you know, I don't want to get too into that, because it's a lot of Erin's content that is providing a lot of insight for other people. I mean, she's the expert, and she and I will wrestle with this all the time. I mean, I kind of gave up on LinkedIn Live, and truthfully, at this point, it doesn't matter to me. I thought I needed that right away, and the algorithm's been changing, and then it's, well, you need more followers, and I'm not one that is seeking followers. That might be naive on my part. It might be, you know, it might not be the best of strategies, but I kind of just want to let things happen organically. And yes, you could push some buttons to get them going that way, but she's the master, and you do it. Look, I don't know how many hours a day you spend on, I mean, Casey Wright and I give you grief about your responses, because we just love to give you grief.
Yes. I'm
We
like,
just love to
wait,
give you,
why is Joel and Casey sitting on Casey's driveway, and they know that I say the word awesome and amazing. And so
and
what I would
ballers.
challenge, yeah, what I would challenge you guys to do is, for fun, follow my LinkedIn and do a drinking game of every time I say
Oh
it.
God.
But you know, it's back to the law of large numbers. It's like, you know, how many people are tuning into this and going to listen to the whole thing? I mean, a lot of people are going to see that we are on it together. And then what you do a beautiful job is, I love when you started cutting to the small clips of like the big aha moment, which I love. And now I literally, every time I see it, I'm on it. And I'm trying to encourage other people to follow you on that, because, you know, the odds of, it's like, I work one of my first jobs, and now I'm gonna transition after this because I want to ask you some questions. I was so scared when I had 7 interviews for a company called Worldwide Express. We would cold call 50 to 70 doors a day in person. Kansas City has 2.5 million people, 71,000 companies. I've been in every door from Raymore Peculiar, Sedalia, Leavenworth, St. Joe, Lawrence, Baldwin, and in between. And I would have to take new hires on an interview, and we would interview them, and we would have to take them to a building like the Darth Vader building or Corporate Woods. And we would go in there and we'd cold call them. We'd say, "Hey, we'd like to speak to the business owner. I work with Worldwide Express, and I want to help you with something." And they would never recognized me, and I had been there the week before. And so the greatest lesson that I learned is that people are never going to remember you. They're never going to remember the conversation. It's very rare. And if you're dealing with executives and busy people, they're never going to catch on to it. And so I think that's an important lesson in business, is that you obviously want to help as many people as you can, but when something doesn't work out, it doesn't need to be a personal vendetta. It doesn't need to be something you twirl your thumbs over. It just happens, and you got to move on to the next one. And sometimes people think that people are looking at things too much. So for me, I don't mind when I'm commenting on things where it's similar language or encouraging or always positive, because for me, it's the odds of Casey and Joel seeing it is rare, but you guys are super smart and you're connected to so many people that you see it. And so I'm always, whenever I see the text message come through, I'm like, shoot, I did just say the same thing.
We're just trying to keep you honest, But I one more question about this then, because this might be your answer here, might actually be the soundbite that makes it onto LinkedIn later. We'll see how good you are.
It's going to be your soundbite.
There's a lot of pressure. No, it's about you. You're the guest for now. But what I wanted to ask was, what then would you view as the number one key right now to networking during this time of social distancing? It's really physical distancing, not social distancing.
So for revenue, the number one thing to do is reaching out to current clients or to prospects that you feel are on the goal line and continuing to communicate with them organically and authentically. And from there, it's the networking aspect of any way that you can create warm introductions. So the way that people need to approach that is they need to look to others that they trust and they like and that have good businesses, and they need to find ways to add value to them. And then from there, value will come back to you. And then the third approach is being on programs like this and watching them and listening and trying to genuinely figure out ways that you can help others that you don't know yet. But, it's that, I'm going to butcher the Martin Luther King quote, but it's, life is about what you do for others. And if you do that from a business perspective, that it's going to be the same thing, because in a moment like this, we had a very personal call for my organization. I've been on calls with other organizations. We think that by July, potentially 1 in 4 Americans could be out of work that were currently working. And so it depends upon where you are in the economy, but it's serious. And so you need to study a person's business before you even reach out, because if they are struggling and you are trying to ask for their time and you're not being conscientious of it, then it's not genuine. I'm not going to say the person's name, but I had someone that their mother passed away in Chicago, and they couldn't be there, but they had asked that. They said, "Hey, unfortunately, my mom passed away, but I want you to follow up." And so I said, "I'm very sorry for that. I'll definitely follow up." So 3 weeks later, I said, "Hey, there's really no right way to ask this question, but you did ask me to follow up. I want to make sure that you're okay. Let me know if there's anything that I can do." And they said, "Hey, really appreciate you following up. Actually, let's get together next week." And so you just have to understand the situation and read it. People that have businesses that are struggling, you should not be asking them for their time or business, because that is not what they need. But there are businesses that are growing and they need help and they need services, and that's the ones you should be reaching out to.
In the simplest terms, do your homework. I hear you say that all the time, and it's so true. There's not a one size fits all for all of this. I know you have a thought. I also know that I was going to try to play it off as shtick, but I don't do shtick very well. But I know that when we talked about doing this, that you wanted to turn the tables on me and become the interviewer. And I thought that would happen. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it. But we're 24 minutes in. So I found a way.
I can go quick, but one thing
I'll give you like you get, oh yeah, you can have that too, but we'll go like another 5 to 10 or see where it goes. You had another thought, and then I'll let you take over.
So you didn't say this, but I give you credit for it, and I hope that you do. I always reference you. I work with a ton of people in transition, and I always reference Joe Goldberg. And I say, if there's a baseball game and we have 9 innings, the first 8 innings should be research. And to your point of doing your homework, and people just think I'm going to go to a well-known company that's in the Business Journal or I hear about. Worst approach ever. Supply and demand. They have They have little demand and tons of supply, and everyone wants to work for them. And I always reference your quote about what you just said about doing your homework. I just say there's 9 innings in a game. You need to spend the first 8 innings research. So, Joel, with that being said, totally different subject.
Okay.
On your birthday, Cinco de Mayo, what was your worst high school job? And I'm going to ask rapid fire questions.
All right. We can do that. This sounds like a Havens icebreaker at an event. So we'll see. By the way, I'm gonna call you out if you're recycling ones that you
I'm
can.
going to
Maybe not
recycle.
everybody's
They're
in
all
it.
recycled.
Of course they are. Worst job. Oh, so what people may or may not know, I think I even posted a message about this sometimes. I got to be rapid fire in my answers. I'm not very good at that. What I had for 8 years, all of high school and college, was I worked at a local restaurant hot dog stand, and that was great. Well, I mean, as a kid, there were times where I didn't. Why do I have to shave? Why do I have to do this? Wait, I was only 1 minute late. But it taught me a lot of life lessons. I worked hard. I made great connections there. And the funny part about that was that they offered me out of college, I think 25 grand to manage the place. My dad was so mad. Like, that's not what you went to school for. And, we didn't say, and I turned it down and took my first TV job, which was, I think, like $13,000 a year. So it was like for half. It all worked out well. But the worst job, it was like 8th grade or freshman year. I signed up through some like organization in town. Think about like nowadays with like an app to hire somebody or whatever. It was through some message, not even a message board, but something. And I basically was going around town doing gardening for like old ladies or something like that. And I think I lasted, wasn't old lady, old, I remember some old guy too. I think I lasted like a week. And I'm like, I hate this. This is awful. I'm just sitting like on a 95-degree day in Chicago picking weeds after riding my bike there. I'm like, yeah, this is awful. So that was the worst one.
First car.
I think it was a little like Honda Civic or something like that. It was, yeah, nothing special.
What was your first concert?
First concert's embarrassing. It was, I got asked to go. The buddy of mine's mom like ran the community recreation center, and so they did all kinds of events, and they brought like teenagers, or I don't know what age, and we were, I think we were in 8th grade or maybe freshmen, so they brought us along. It was Julian Lennon, John Lennon's kid, was the first thing I ever saw. I'm not saying it was one of the worst concerts I ever saw. It's just not one that I would be proud. I've gone to a lot of great concerts in my life. That wasn't one of them.
What is one of your favorite sports movies?
Oh man, my favorite sports movie of all time is Hoosiers. I could watch that over and over and over again. I just watched with my son the other night. He'd never seen Bull Durham. That's always kind of been my favorite baseball movie. I'm not sure what, like Bull Durham or Field of Dreams, like, can't go wrong with either of them. I mean, I love all of them. The Natural, Major League, Sandlot's amazing. It's not one that I grew up with. That was a little bit after that. But I would go Hoosiers first and foremost. Miracle's really good too. I'm a big hockey guy.
So, total different question, but what's just in general one of your favorite movies that you like that's not sports?
Ooh, there's a couple of them. There's a couple. There's a million of them. I can't ever go wrong with Shawshank. I think I think the two best movies of the 90s to me were Shawshank and Pulp Fiction. But I think Shawshank's the one that I can watch over and over and over again. There's now 2 Tim Robbins movies that I've mentioned within a matter of one minute. And I always loved, and of course, Star Wars and all that stuff, but I always loved all the Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones stuff.
So you don't need to name the person, but somewhere in life, someone tells someone they can't do something, or you're not good enough, or you're not going to make it. Did you ever have someone that told you that you couldn't do it and you used it as motivation?
Oh, over and over again. First off, I don't know that there's ever been a step that I've taken in 25 years in television where I wasn't told no first, or got rejected for promotions or other jobs. I mean, I would say that even right now, my job with Fox Sports, which started at Fox Sports Midwest in St. Louis, I'd been working in St. Louis at the local Fox, and they had an opening, and I applied for it, and I got turned down, which was okay. That's the way it goes. And 3 years later, they came back to me and said, you know what? That one didn't work out, or whatever it is, or that person has moved on. We'd like to hire you. So there is a lesson there of don't give up. I'll go back and for anybody watching, and I don't know that we have a whole lot of kids watching this, but even if it motivates parents or you can put it in a different context, I remember in high school, my guidance counselor saying, "Well, you can't get into that school. You're not good enough to go there." And I took it, and it ended up working out because I found a school that I think I ended up enjoying better. But when I look back at it, it's like, why would she tell me I can't? I am such a firm believer with all of this, especially if you go about things the right way, of flipping things upside down. When people tell you you can't, find a way to say I can. When you say to yourself, I can't do this, which is very much, I think about the discussion we had about networking before. Well, I can't do this anymore because we can't have all these people together. Well, what about maybe, yes, we can. We could do it whether it's via Zoom or in that parking lot. There's always a way to do it if you're creative, or at least you have the drive.
Absolutely. And so, what is the thing you're looking forward to most this summer outside of baseball?
Uh, I was going to go with baseball just because, and I know that's a very obvious answer, but let me just put it maybe at a different level. And I don't know what baseball is going to look like. I think everyone, in my mind right now, and nobody's saying, I'm thinking late June, early July. I think we return to empty stadiums, and as much as that is not, it's far from ideal. It's better than nothing. So I'm looking forward to just helping provide some of that distraction and entertainment we all need in the form of baseball. But I hope that as fans are able to come back, it's not so much the fans, because I'll hear from them on social media. Yes, I really look forward to seeing fans, but in every stadium I go to, from Kauffman Stadium to everything around the country, especially within our division where we go 3 times a year, you get to know the clubhouse attendants, the ushers, the security people. I mean, I think about the cop that sits down by the first base camera well in Cleveland. I see him and sit next to him 9 or 10 nights a year. I think about the guy that's guarding behind home plate, the entrance onto the field with the White Sox. I see him every year, and I've thought about this. I can't wait to see all those people that many of our fans don't know, but that you've built relationships with, the restaurant owner in Cleveland, the bartender in Minnesota, on and on and on. And so that's what I'm really excited about, is seeing those people again.
I mean, I was about to ask you what your favorite ballpark is to in the city to visit, but you've segued in there. But can you give a couple of like your top 2, 3 that,
Yeah.
or is it about the people? It's not about the city.
No, it's about this. Like I have a couple categories. One is the category of just best stadium.
Hmm.
And so, but then there's also, you can kind of break it down. The best stadium for us sometimes is what's the easiest place to work. So my favorite stadium
What
is
about,
Fenway Park.
do all of them. Do all
Well,
the
my
categories.
favorite, my favorite's Fenway Park, but that's not an easy place to work. It's older. It's just, you don't have the elevator that takes you from the top level right down to the field. I know those sound like little things, but when you're on a deadline and you're in a rush, you have to map out, and you learn over the years it's going to take this long to get here, take this long to get there. So certain stadiums where the elevator drops you right by the locker room or the field entrance are really easy places to work. But I love Fenway. I love the city of Boston's one of my favorites. So the other category is just city. It might not be stadium. Fenway is like going back in time. Fenway opened up right around the same week that the Titanic sank. So I'll give you an idea of how old that is. There's an aura when you walk into Fenway. There's also, to me, an aura of being in that city. We were the first game back after the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013. I covered a no-hitter there. I mean, I've been to a World Series there. There are a lot of memories in that place. Obviously, I always say put Kauffman Stadium aside. It takes me out of the whole, like, well, why isn't that number one? Or what about our place? Anywhere you go around baseball, people will tell you Kauffman Stadium is one of the crown jewels, pardon the pun, in baseball. So it's just a different perspective when it's your own home. But Seattle is awesome. Great city, great stadium. Toronto, don't like the stadium very much at all, but it's one of my absolute favorite cities. So I love going to Toronto. The Bay Area, when we go to Oakland, we stay in San Francisco. Terrible stadium. Love the San Francisco area. I could find, though, something that I like, either city or stadium, in every single place. Because, again, it's like anything else. You get into a rhythm with these places.
Yeah, the Bears played at Fenway, and so did Ditka, and so did a lot of their championship teams.
Wrigley. That was Wrigley.
Wrigley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I no
Way off.
No, you're not way off, because the reason why is that I put those two stadiums in a category. You cannot compare Wrigley or Fenway to anywhere else, because they're the two stadiums that have been around for 100+ years. So the closest to them after that is Dodger Stadium, which has an aura that's pretty unique to itself. But there's some generations here. I don't put Wrigley at a level of Fenway for one reason, and a lot of people would debate me on this. One, we moved to Chicago when I was 13. I went to games at Wrigley as a kid quite a bit. I wasn't a Cubs fan because we'd moved from Philadelphia. However, it as much as I appreciate Wrigley, it's kind of normal to me. I never went to Fenway as a kid. We once drove through town and drove beyond the Green Monster, and I was like, wow, I want to be in there. So the first time I think I ever was in there might have been 2004 for the Cardinals Red Sox World Series, when the Red Sox swept the Cardinals. So there's just a feeling there. But those two stadiums are the same in the sense that you feel like you're going back in time. You're in this neighborhood, and you're right. There's a lot of history in each of those stadiums beyond just baseball. So no, you weren't far off on that.
I'll ask one more question. I'll tell a quick story, and the question is just your favorite city for people outside of Kansas City.
Yeah.
But I always tell people 2 years ago, we were talking business on the phone, and you're like, you just dropped the name, and you're like, I don't really know what's going to happen with so and so, and I was like, what business does he own? And you're like, Scott, it's the starting pitcher for opening day. And I was like, what? And so I just was like, I just always love that story, because I forget our friendship is not baseball. And so, but the question I have is the last question is for the stadium for the people outside of Kansas City. And please, you can't do St. Louis either, because you've worked there, but who are some of your favorite people around the country that you enjoy that someone may not think that you would enjoy?
Oh, this one's easy for me because we go there a lot, and I also see similar kind of values to Kansas City, but that's Minneapolis. I love the Twin Cities. I absolutely love it. Their stadium, which opened, I believe, in 2009, which was the most recent new American League stadium, and now Texas at some point will be opening their stadium when we open up this year. The people are great up there. They don't care how cold it is or the weather. I remember when that stadium was being built, everybody's like, how could you build an outdoor stadium in Minneapolis? They come, they show up. The stadium's awesome. The people are awesome. The downtown is awesome. So that's the one that I tell people all the time, that's a hidden gem. And if you're looking to take these baseball trips and you're in Kansas City, just hop up I-35, make the 6-hour drive or whatever it is, and spend the weekend exploring the city. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully we have that in better times. And here we are now at 11:44 for those that are watching live, and we do have some people watching live. And I'm going to move on to the KC Tech Council. So we got to kind of trade off here, but this was a lot of fun. And
one quick thing, I just wanted to say happy birthday to you and everyone on social media. It's Joel's birthday today, so I really truly appreciate it, my friend. And I literally jumped out of my boots when I saw it was your birthday on Facebook and that we were getting together today. So,
do you have pants on or no?
I have shorts.
Okay, fair enough. Me too. It's okay. I appreciate you dressing up for me today, though. Which, but people that know Scott, that's
tuxedo jersey.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no t-shirt.
All right, pal. Appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. Have fun today. If everyone, they can find your interview with Aaron and Mayor Lucas on LinkedIn, right?
Yep, they can. So Drinks with Leaders.
Okay, so search on LinkedIn for Drinks with Leaders, Scott Havens, the great Aaron Falk, Mayor Quentin Lucas, and I know they've got a great sports panel next week too. And if anybody's saying why wasn't Joel invited, I had a conflict, so I apologize.
We're not going to tell you who canceled, but yeah, Joel is number one.
I was the first, probably the only one too. I'm sorry. All right, Scott, thanks for doing this. I'll talk to you probably later or something like that.
Thank you, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, that is Scott Havens. If you're not following him on LinkedIn. Same for Aaron Folk. Do it. They've got so much insight. They're so well connected. I appreciate everybody tuning in for this early edition. As always, I hope that you will share this with your network and spread the word. You can reach me at joelgoldbergmedia.com. If anybody's interested, I'm doing a lot of virtual events now. Actually have to head over to one at this moment. Want to thank Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you, and my friends at Casey Cattle Company. You can check them out on their website or social media, and they do deliver to all 50 states. I hope everyone has a happy Cinco de Mayo, a happy Tuesday, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.